All right. Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be starting something a little different. We're going to be talking about mathematical properties for a little bit, and using them when we add and subtract. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put it into our math journal. All right. We got page 13, mathematical properties. Okay. So. So we're going to do this first. Now we'll go over the mathematical properties. Okay. So this is going to be available on Google Classroom. That way you can always go back and look at it. Okay. And hopefully this clears up when we have questions maybe about what property is used in a math equation, that we can always refer back to this and look. So let's just go over these pretty quick. All right, so the associative property. All right, now the associative property states that when three or more numbers are added, the sum is the same regardless of how the add-ins, the numbers, are grouped. Okay, that's a key for the associative property. That's a key word there, how they are grouped. All right, so if we look at the explanation, all right, when it says grouped, it's talking about the use of parentheses. All right, so it's got an example there. 4 plus 3, or 4 plus, in parentheses, 3 plus 2 is equal to, in parentheses, 4 plus 3 plus 2. All right? These are grouped differently, however, the sum is the same. So if we remember back in our order of operations, okay, and however you wanted to remember it by, I think I remembered it as, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay? So if we just remember it, all right, parentheses, that's the first thing that we need to do. Okay? So whatever is inside the parentheses is what we do. So in this case, we add 3 plus 2. So that gives us 5. And then we go 4 plus 5 is, well, that's 9. All right? So if we go to the other side of the equals, it wants us to add 4 plus 3 first. So 4 plus 3 is 7. And then we're going to add the outside plus 2. Well, 7 plus 2 is 9. So it doesn't matter how we put our parentheses, okay? When we add them together, the sum, it will be the same. Okay? Now, the commutative property. Now, this is kind of the same way, but we're leaving out that key term as grouped. All right, so the commutative property states that when two or more numbers are added, the sum is the same regardless of the order of the add-ins, so regardless of the numbers. All right, so the explanation says when adding, it doesn't matter which number is first, the sum will be the same. So 3 plus 5 is the same as 5 plus 3. Okay, they both equal 8. Okay, so the commutative property is 2 or more. Okay, and it doesn't matter how we arrange the order. Okay, the associative property talks about how they are grouped. Okay, and you'll see that later in the cutouts and stuff that we do for our math journal. Now, the identity property. All right, the identity property says the sum. Okay, it says of, it should say or. It's a typo. The sum or difference of any number and 0 is the original number. Okay, so the explanation, if you add or subtract 0 from any number, your answer is that number. All right, so the example, 7 minus 0, well, if you're not taking anything from 7, you're still getting 7. All right. 7 plus 0, if you're not adding anything, well, your answer is still going to be what? 7. That's the number you started with. Okay, so identity is pretty easy. All right, so the equality property. Okay, the equality property states that a number can be added or subtracted on both sides to get an equal equation. Okay, so if it's added, it can be added to both sides. If it's subtracted, you can subtract from both sides. So the explanation, if we have 6 minus 2 equals 4, and we subtract the same number from both sides, then both sides are still equal. All right, so now if we look at it, 6 minus 2 minus 1, okay, so we added minus 1, we're subtracting 1, is equal to 4 minus 1. Now we have minus 1 on each side, right? That's something that we added in there extra. All right, so if we subtract both sides from the same number, or subtract the number from the same side, both sides, all right, each side now equals what? 3. All right, so 6 minus 2, well, we already said up here it's 4, and 4 minus 1 is what? 3. Well, guess what? 4 minus 1 is 3. All right, and you can do that with addition as well. All right, so if I add 2 to one side of the equation, I need to add 2 to the other side. Okay, so like I said, this is going to be in Google Classroom, so it's always going to be there for you to go back and reference. Okay, now let's get to putting it in our math journal. All right, you'll see this as you can go back and refer to it. It's going to have the same definitions. I just wanted it be a little bit larger on that other sheet. Okay. Okay. So this is what your sheet looks like. All right, adding and subtracting using mathematical properties. All right, we have the associative, the commutative, the equality, and the identity. Okay, and now as you can see, I'll flip it this way. We have the definition. So under this tab, you'll write the definition, which I've already given you. The operation, now it's talking about whether the associative, the commutative, identity, or equality operation, what operation is associated with that property. All right, and you can find that in the definitions. Okay, and then an example. Well, the examples are going to be right here. Okay, so one of these examples will be placed under the example tab. Okay, all right, so I'm going to pause it. I'm going to cut this out, and we're going to start gluing it in. Okay, all right, I'm back. All right, so I got everything cut out here. Remember that we cut the solid lines. Okay, we cut the solid lines and not the dotted lines. Okay, the dotted lines, if you remember, are to fold. So right here I've cut my tabs out, so my definition will go behind this, the operation, and which example I think needs to go there. Okay, all right, so we're going to glue these in. Okay, and then we'll have a couple little examples. Okay. Okay, so now I've got them glued in. Okay, now I have my examples. Okay, I still have my examples. All right, so I'll kind of spread these out over here just a little bit. Okay, now what you need to do is, and if guys, if you can't print it out, that's perfectly fine. Okay, but you need to go ahead and enter it into your math journal. Okay, right at the top, adding and subtracting using mathematical properties. Okay, and it doesn't matter how you have these arranged down here. Okay, I mean, if you wanted the associative to be up here first, but you know, that's fine. Okay, but if you can't, cut it out and glue it in. Okay, my suggestion would be write one of the properties. Okay, like in the middle, the definition under it, then the operation down below it, and then one of the examples, whichever example goes to it. Okay, underneath. And then drop down below it the other property. Okay, so commutative. All right, then the definition, the operation that we can use, the commutative property, and whichever example. Okay, now you should be able to pull it up on your Chromebook and have this right in front of you and look back and forth and write it down. Okay, so if you want to figure out how to set it up, well, right there it is. Okay, and this tells you everything that you need to do, and it gives you the definitions as well. Okay, it gives you the definitions. Now, on the sheet that I have the definition and explanation, that might be a little bit easier for you to see. It's a little bit larger on the page. Okay, so right now, let's just look at these. Now, if we go back and look at our definitions, all right, and look at the explanations. So let's look at them over here. And these are in no particular order. Okay, so we'll just start with the top. We have 7/8 minus 0. Okay, so let's go back and look at our properties. Which one does it talk about adding or subtracting 0? All right, my thumb's right by it, right? The identity property. Okay, so we're going to take this example, because we're talking about it's adding or subtracting a 0, and we're going to place it, we'll glue it in right under that one, okay, because that's identity. Okay, now let's look at the next ones. All right, commutative property. All right, the commutative property stated, when two or more numbers are added, the sum is the same regardless of the order. Okay, so let's look. When two or more are added, the sum is the same. So let's look at this one. Well, this one, we're adding another number, so that's probably not it. Okay, so this one, we have what? We have 6.59 plus 7.42 is equal to 7.42 plus 6.59. Well, those have the same numbers, and there's two of them. And what did they do? Well, they just switched the order that they were in. Okay, so if we're just switching the order, then that one seems like, and there's no parentheses that are grouping anything differently. Okay, so that's going to be the example for commutative. All right. Now, the equality, all right, property says that a number can be added or subtracted on both sides to get an equal equation. All right. So are we adding or subtracting on this one? Well, we're adding, but what are they doing? Well, they've got parentheses around them. Okay, so there's nothing new added there. All right, so let's look at this one. If 37 plus 29 is equal to 66, then 37 plus 29 plus 84 is equal to 66 plus 84. Well, what did they do? Well, they come in here and added 84 to both sides. So if you add 84 to both sides, well, guess what? That keeps your equation equal. So we're going to place that right there in the equality. All right. Now, the only one that we're left with is associative. Okay. And this is what the associative property looks like. 3/4 plus 1/2. All right. And they're grouped by the what? The parentheses. Plus 4/5 is equal to 3/4 plus 1/2 plus 4/5. All right. If we look, they've grouped 1/2 and 4/5 over here. All right, so they're grouped differently. They want us to add these first and then add 3/4. All right, over here, they want us to add these first and then add 4/5 to it. Okay, so this is the example of the associative property. Okay, now I've gave you examples, and it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to write your explanations. Okay, all these explanations here, write those explanations on this side. Okay, that way it kind of gives you a quick look at what another example is. Okay, so remember, under the definition, you're just going to write the definition. Under the operation, you're going to tell me if it is adding or subtracting or both. okay, adding and subtracting, that you can use this property for. All right, and then your examples, we've already determined are underneath. Okay? All right. I think today you're going to have 2 math journal entries, so we'll see you for the next video.